Hello to all my quilting friends. This is Marilyn from KK's Quilt Studio. Today's video is for Carol, who wrote to me about one of my previous YouTube videos, and she wanted to know about edge-to-edge stitching. And some folks, the YouTube that she's asking about, we stitched from left to right and then stitch down, connecting up the second row, and then stitch back again from right to left. Now normally when you set up an edge-to-edge design, you're stitching left to right, stopping at the end point, your machine pauses, and then you return your machine head over here to the left on the second row and begin stitching again left to right. Her question was, rather than stitching, as I showed in the video, from the end point to this point of the second row, can you just do a jump stitch? Well, of course you can, Carol. You can do anything that you want. So let's go ahead and clear all we have on the table, and I'll show you how to do that very same setup and stitch back and forth with just a jump stitch on the end. So I go to that same design, Field of Flowers, the repeat tab, and horizontally, let's repeat it 2 times. Okay, now what we want to do is go to Edit and duplicate that very same design. So now we have 2. And I'll drag one down, and this takes a little bit of manipulation, but we'll want to line them up. And if you feel like you can't do it by eyesight, I think that one looks pretty good. Turn on your grids or set an area and line them up that way. But we're going to just eyeball it today for demonstration purposes. So now we have row 1 and row 2, and this one still starts on the left and ends on the right. So we want to go up to Modify and swap points for this one. Now all we need to do is select all. We've created one group, go up to ProStitcher and begin sewing. And this will sew out in one group. Make sure that you set your jump to be at least somewhat smaller than the distance between here. I usually keep my jumps set at 6 inches. So that is when the machine sees that this jump is greater than 6 inches, it will stop and pause and give you time to cut threads, tie off, and move to the next starting point. So we'll go ahead and sew out. I'll pause the video while this sews out until we get to the other side. Okay, and we're almost there, rounding the corner here. And there your machine stops for your long jump pause. So go ahead and cut your threads or however you tie off your designs, and go ahead and resume, and you'll see that it moves down to the next point. You'll see there's a dotted line, and that indicates a jump, not a stitch. So yes, Carol, you can do this with a jump stitch instead of the stitches. just set up 2 separate rows, and I forgot to, I'm going to point out my error, I forgot to do point to point when I repeated the rows, so make sure you do that. So set up 2 separate rows, and you can do your edge to edge just like that. And of course you can still do cropping, whatever you need to do if necessary. If you want to crop off the top to fit this in a design, it is works the same fashion. So let's try something else. I'm going to pause this and move to another design. For this next demonstration, I'm going to use this design, and it has an offset to it, so it does not line up right below the other one. So let's go to our repeat tool, and let's repeat this about 4 times. That looks good. Make sure I hit my point to point this time, and then let's duplicate that design, and I'll need to drag and move it over directly under, and I will need to create an area because I'll need to crop this off. So let's undo that. I need to move this, moving the head of my machine, so the edge of my quilt is about there, and move it over. Let's say the bottom is right about there. Okay, that establishes my 2-point area. So now we want to go to Modify, select that design again, and we're going to crop outside, and then you'll need to select that second row, and we'll crop it as well. Whoops, sorry. And I don't know why it did that, but we'll go with it. Then let's go to swap points. So now I have a red point on the end of that one and a green point here. So if we go to select all again, so we have both rows, go to ProStitcher and sew it out. We'll have the same. I hope this stops because it is pretty close. Now I do want to tell you that it will stitch the ends here between this little swiggle point and this one, because it'll have to jump down here. So I cannot guarantee you on this design. You'll just have to test it out and see in simulation if this is going to work for you, or change that jump point to a smaller number so that your machine will stop whenever you need to, so that you get a jump stitch instead of stitches along the edge of your quilt. But I wanted to show you that offset designs can be stopped as well, and that one's going to continue to sew because it's closer. So if you reset your jump stitches to be a smaller area, then it should do as well. Let's go back. Let's cancel out of there. I'll go to my auto jump and we'll set that down to a smaller number, and we'll go back to ProStitcher and we'll try that again. Again, my auto jump is set to 1.5 inches. That's pretty tiny. And see there, we set it so small that it's going to stop for everything. So it had to move from here to here, and that was more than 1.5 inches. But you work with this and set it to what you need to get it to stitch out properly. So we're probably also going to get a pause over here on this area of the balloon. So Carol, I hope that answers your questions. I hope you can set up your next design and you'll be able to stitch out without stitches, but you'll get your long jump pauses. You will get some stitches because this is a short area. Hit resume, but I just wanted to show you how this is going to work for your different designs. There we'll get another long jump pause. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful. And until I see you next time, all my quilting friends, I wish you happy quilting.